President Donald J. Trump was purportedly golfing today when he figured out how to solve this intractable problem, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. He called up key members of Congress and told them of his brave new plan that would solve the problem. He said that what they needed to do was not to end the filibuster, not to capitulate to Democrats' demands, but to come up with an entirely new healthcare system to rival Obamacare, one that would be loved by everybody so that we could just get over it. He challenged them to get this done so that the government could reopen. This is In Time. Welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and with me today is a Xandering person and Commander Lance Macman. Mr. Macman, thank you so much for joining us. I've heard nothing but good things.
Thank you.
So I love that story. He's just on the golf course. He's like, wait a minute. Why do we even have a shot? I figured this out. And it's like he's had conceptions of a plan for a while. Why not just turn it into a real plan and we're good to go? Dr.
Well, I'm
Oz.
just curious if this is the same plan that he's been promising for, since before the first election. He had better healthcare plans that he was going to propose. Just so everybody can see her. Here she is. She's still alive and happy.
There she is.
Yeah.
Well, and Dr. Oz now says he's got a plan, and one would think it would be natural for Dr. Oz in his position to come up with a plan. But first of all, Dr. Oz doing anything scares the living daylights out of me. But second of all,
at least he responded to the health crisis in the Oval Office with something resembling actual decent behavior.
My God.
Rather than dashing out of the room at sprint speeds that rival Olympic runners, or standing there looking like he wasn't sure which planet he was visiting today.
Let's we do need to see that again. So keep an eye on RFK. It's well worth it. So here we go. In case Henry hasn't seen it yet.
Has been investing in America. We've been advancing science and creating high-value jobs. But today we. Oh, are you okay? Gordon, you okay?
Yeah. There's anthrax there or something. He's just.
Press out. Press. We're going. Thank you, press. Press. Right, guys. Cameras. We're done rolling. Cameras.
It's like he thinks there's anthrax there. He's just like, oh my God. He's just like,
oh yeah.
It's the autism.
Yeah.
He must have had a vaccine that gave him contagious autism or something.
Somebody opened a bottle of Tylenol. Evac.
Although, even though it's a bad look, I do have to admit, he's not a doctor. He's not a trained medical professional in any way, shape, or form. He can't offer any kind of help whatsoever. At least you wouldn't really want him to. And he is making room for other people to come in and, take up the space. I mean,
yeah. That's the most charitable. Well, and I love Trump, who also can't do anything, and he's just sitting there. You can just see he's got this kind of lonely look, like the spotlight was once on me.
Take away, son of a bitch, taking away the goddamn spotlight. What the hell? What a
Well,
drama
it's-
queen.
It was such
Yeah.
a big, beautiful bill that I was going to sign. So big,
Yeah,
so
I was
beautiful.
going to talk about big, beautiful things. Oh, dear Lord. So, we've got a lot to talk. Let me actually quickly get to the super chats. So, Dunk on You, 20. Trump digs holes and now faces multiple huge catastrophes. Yeah, I just make a new Obamacare. That'll. Oh my God. While people talk about the collapse of Russia, Trump is making damn sure the U.S. collapse happens too. He's a senile POS. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. Duncan, you also gifted 5 memberships. So thank you, Dunk, for your support and for just always being there and joining us in the live chat and having something to say, and for your super chats. They mean a lot, and they really do help keep the show going. So thank you. Let's talk about. We haven't talked about Ukraine in a very long time, and it feels kind of weird because we had Starsky on every single Friday. And but he has changed positions. We were down for a period, so by the time we came back, unfortunately, and we're a news show, so Ukraine was, in my view, huge news. It's been huge news because it really is. If as I think everybody on this panel agrees, if Putin is really trying to, in one way or another, reconstitute the former Soviet Union, that is a World War II threatening level event. It's something that needs to be addressed, and we at the U.S. simply cannot ignore. So we've been taking it very seriously, but recently, an orange, whatever he is, moved into the White House, and that affects Ukraine, that affects Russia. So we've been covering that. Now, Ukraine has been making some staggering, as per Ukraine. I mean, I think Commander, you and I both agree. We both took a look at Bakhmut, and we're just like, yeah, they're saying that's gonna hold like for however long we're like, no. And sure enough, I mean, the Ukrainians do not.
Well, it did eventually fall, but I think the Ukrainians anticipated that was going to be the end result. The key is that they made the Russians pay so much in terms of material and manpower to get it that it boggles the mind. And now they're repeating it at Pokrovsk. It's like every year we get the new Bakhmut, basically. And the Russians are willing to, burn through 500,000 men taking some stupid little place that barely figures on a map unless you zoom into, oh, look, there's a sidewalk. There's the name of the town.
Well, this is an image that we got of Moscow yesterday. This is Moscow last night. Without power, Ukraine has been successfully hitting both the power grid, the electrical systems in major cities, including Moscow and St. Petersburg. They've also been successfully hitting oil refineries to reduce Russia's capacity to refine oil and to ship it out. Commander, how successful have they been in these targets, and does this change the calculation for Putin going forward?
The last figure I heard that I felt confident in was that somewhere between 25 to 30% of Russia's pre-war petroleum and gas production had been shut down due to the Ukrainian, for lack of a better word, strategic bombing campaign. They're also hitting lots of military targets, which, bomber bases where they launch their aircraft to carry the missiles that are striking the Ukrainian cities and such. So, yeah, the Ukrainians are definitely prosecuting a war in very efficient fashion, given the assets they have available.
Trump has said that he's going to send the, I think it was it the typhoon. Oh no, so he's not going to send. He is sending. No, wait, hold on. He's not sending the. No, yep, they are coming, but oh no, he's not going to send. It's like Snap. It's holy smoke. Is this guy not? Do you see the
It's
U.S.
like a 3-year-old standing by the light switch for the light in the next room going click, 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 click. What does this switch do? Click, 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 because he's only looking at the light right over his head.
It's worse. I think you're right, but it's worse. He knows that the adults are in the next room trying to have a real conversation, and he wants to get their attention, so he's just flicking the switch just to annoy the living daylights out of everybody else.
I think that's giving him more credit than he's due, because that assumes that he understands correlation between the switch he's flicking and what's going on in the next room. I don't think he can think that clearly.
All right, time travelers, you're going to need to settle this dispute. Please, in the chat or in the comments section below, let us know, do you think Donald Trump has the intellectual capacity to understand what happens when you flick a light switch? 1 for yes, 0 for no. I'm just curious to see how this goes, how this impromptu poll goes. You may be right.
He absolutely understands the concept of flicking a light switch and turning the lights on. However, he is dead fast set against that fake news. Ergo, he has to make a stand there that's no such thing exists.
That's right.
Did we just get a -0? How do you get a -0? I like that one. I like that one. All right. So, well, our live chat has spoken. So
Less than 0.
So we know that. Now, what do you think this is doing internally? Obviously, Putin is not going to talk about it. This is literally that scene, and we've all seen the meme. It's from the original Naked Gun, where Leslie Nielsen, nothing to see here, and everything's exploding and going on.
Yeah.
So Putin's not going to talk about it, but I have to believe, between the sanctions and everything else, and I am confused by, I don't know what the U.S. has or hasn't done since Trump has gotten into office. He keeps talking about sanctions and we implement them, but they're not really implemented, and he's already gotten rid of the committee that enforces them, so I don't even know if they're enforceable. So I got no idea what the U.S. is doing, which I think is by design, and I'm pretty sure that means we're not doing basically anything. So what pressure is Trump feeling?
It's a great way for him to be able to stand up there and say, oh, yes, I put all these sanctions in effect, except nobody's enforcing them, and he turned them off the day after he started them, but then turned them back on 3 days after that, and you never know. And to give him credit, I doubt he knows either.
Dunk just so I guess it turns out that Trump invented the light switch too. It really is. It's like living under Putin, where it's just sort of like the grand leader. Yeah,
it's almost like going, "Hey, I wonder what this cable does." See light switch? Wonder what that does.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm sure everybody. Yeah. I'm sure everybody gets the analogy. Thank you, 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐿. Your contribution has been delightful as always. By the way,
thank you.
Hold on. I'm going through your files right now. Don't worry about it. None of this is going to be posted publicly. So at any rate,
have fun reading lots of permits.
yeah, it's going to be all what do you think is the pressure going on right now? Has this added to the pressure for Putin to try to find a solution? Is Putin going to be able to find a solution? Are we looking at least, and I don't mean, when I say another year, I don't mean through this year, I mean another minimum 365 days of this? I mean, yeah, so.
No, I said before, 2 years ago at least, maybe more, the war doesn't end until Putin exits stage left. He can't call it off. He's the poker player who's all in here. And if he doesn't play the hand through to its conclusion, he loses everything. So, yeah, I don't see the conflict ending anytime soon, and I don't see Putin really wanting to have a negotiated settlement because it doesn't do him any good. He needs to be able to show Russia that the sacrifice of a million men was worth it. We reclaimed our land. And that I think is the starting sequence for any discussion of where things go from here. And I agree. I think, minimum 1 year, probably longer, unless he develops window sickness or something.
Rapid deceleration poisoning is the one that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I imagine, depending on how long these blackouts last, because it's also just, for the leadership that wants to stay in power, not being able to provide electricity. If you're in Ukraine, that's one thing. If you're in Russia, that's something very different.
Particularly because you'll notice that they're making a focused effort to shut down power in the two big cities, in St. Petersburg and Moscow. Shutting down power in the other smaller outlying cities really doesn't make a bit of difference. Those are the key constituencies, if you will, that need to be convinced that everything is going according to plan. And when the power goes out, it's proof that, nope, the power is going out because things are not going according to plan.
Yeah, it becomes even harder to deny than I remember just in the early days, we were sitting there going, well, there's going to be a lot of dead bodies. How are they going to deny that? And then it's the rolling crematoriums right behind. I was just like, oh, that's got to be great for morale. Oh, dear Lord. Well, so we reported on something yesterday, and we are going to update that report. Our confidence in that report has dropped. So, but we're gonna talk to Commander here while we've got him. So, 𝐒𝐻𝐿ev, who is the first deputy chairman of the State Duma Defense Committee, which is essentially a member of parliament for Russia. Said that a number of weapons have been supplied to Caracas, including Su-30 Mk2 fighters and S-300 VMs. He has been talking about, in particular, anti-aircraft weapons that have been supplied. Yes?
I did some research into this after you sent me the link.
Yep.
Two things.
Yes, sir.
First, Russia sold Venezuela a bunch of these systems years ago. And the Buck 2 and the Contier or whatever are not especially new systems. So, you take that for what it's worth. But I look at it this way. You've got a country that's under considerable pressure from drone and missile attacks by Ukraine that's had, depending on which source you consult, between 25 to 30% of their petroleum and gas production shut down by these strikes, cutting hugely into revenue. And they're going to be sending air defense systems to a country on the other side of the frickin' globe. That makes a lot of sense. So the Russians have, and I have an anecdote which I'll get into in just a moment to show you what I'm talking about, but the Russians have a history for some time, before even the Soviet Union, but definitely since then, of making grandiose promises to friends or enemies of enemies of, oh, we're going to send you this huge amount of stuff and support and all these technical advisors and all this stuff. And, they eventually end up sending a politely worded letter saying, we're sorry, but we're too busy to provide anything today.
But you see, if you fold that letter and turn it into a paper airplane,
it could be deadly.
Do you know how many Navy, well, at a minimum, like the Navy airmen might lose an eye, you could poke an eye out with
you never know.
Paper airplane. Okay. Deadly paper airplanes.
The personal anecdote is in 1974, when my family and I were living in Turkey and just getting ready to leave, a quasi-war broke out between Turkey and Greece over the island of Cyprus. I won't get into the details, but suffice to say that this conflict is threatening to, pull NATO asunder, because both are NATO member states. And within a couple of days of the situation starting, Russia made the pronouncement that they were going to send 100,000 Russian troops to help the Turks defeat the evil Greeks. Now, obviously, sending in a bunch of troops across Turkey's border to help them provoke a war between two NATO states is something that the U.S. might have frowned upon slightly. Just, I'm guessing crapshoot here. So anyway, a certain individual who I was very familiar with, who I can neither confirm nor deny was a member of a certain three-letter agency working for the U.S. government, basically called up his KGB counterpart and said, Vlad, you need to get that statement retracted immediately, because if you don't, within 24 hours, really dangerous stuff is about to happen. And basically, within the next 2 hours, TASS issued a retraction, because it was some minor official who was misquoted or something. But that's what I'm saying, is that they're prone to making these grandiose gestures and then not following through or backing down the moment somebody says enough of your BS. So I suspect what's going on is this is another case of Vlad getting ticked off that Donald is not doing everything he's been told to do. So, well, I'll show you. I know you're making a big thing with the Venezuelans. I'm going to threaten to send them, cruise missiles and nuclear weapons and everything else. That'll shut you down. And, anybody with half a brain or the ability to read history will just say, yeah, whatever, shut up, crawl back in your little hole.
Yeah, I'm suspecting so far a number of other sources other than Business Insider, which is a reputable source, but they admit to having only one source themselves, and it's the MP. Other sources have carried it, but they all are citing the same source. So at this point, we have very low confidence that
if a single member of the Duma made that statement, you can pretty much guarantee he was told to make that statement, because if there's no pushback, oh well, it was just some guy making a statement. If there is pushback, you immediately point the accusatory finger at him and saying, well, he's saying things he shouldn't be saying. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's not an official position from the government.
All right. So that's good. So what we have, and we showed this yesterday, this is the deployments currently and flight paths, so where we could send B-52s from and so on and so forth, of the U.S. buildup in the Caribbean. My guess is the number of fishing boats there have dropped dramatically. So What does this kind of positioning tell you, looking at this?
I look at the ships, and to me, what it says, having looked up the names and what kind of classes and such, it's enough to be threatening, but it's not enough to mount a full-born invasion of that country. You'd need a lot more stuff to be able to pull that off. So either it's simply a show of force designed to let 𝐒𝐤𝐸𝐿 or the orange one, thump their chest about, great American power politics and everything, or it's something that's realistically being considered for a raid. And to make sure that your audience understands the difference, an invasion, you're going in and you plan to stay. How long you stay is up in the air, whether it's long enough to establish a colonial government or put a friendly government in place or simply get rid of bad guys. It doesn't matter. You're going to stay for a while. A raid is you go in with a specific objective in mind, you accomplish the objective, and you get back on the boat and go home. So if the mission, and again, remember what all this is being done allegedly for, which is the narco terrorists. If the mission is to simply go in and blow up cocaine production storage or production places or a boatyard that makes high-speed boats for smuggling or what have you, yeah, you go in, you conduct a raid, you get out. You don't give the Venezuelan military a chance to really respond, because by the time they do, you're already back over the horizon. So to my mind, that's one of the two things that's likely going on here.
Right. And then, so that's leads, I think, a good segue into the memorandum issued by Trump.
God, this thing.
Yeah, so we're going to have to talk about this. I'd like to point out that no president, even like Reagan, didn't issue a memorandum like this, and he had more cause than any sitting president. Trump has declared this coming week Anti-Communism Week for 2025 by presidential decree. It's to be Anti-Communism Week going forward.
Gene McCarthy's corpse just popped a stiffy.
More than one. This week, our nation observes Anti-Communism Week, a solemn remembrance of the devastation caused by one of history's most destructive ideologies. Across continents and generations, communism has wrought devastation upon nations and souls. More than 100 million lives have been taken by regimes that sought to erase faith, suppress freedom, and destroy prosperity earned through hard work, violating the God-given rights and dignity of those they
Don't read the whole thing. Let's just get to the key sentence of the whole thing. Okay?
Yeah.
New voices now repeat old lies, cloaking them in the language of social justice and democratic socialism. Yet their message remains the same. Give up your freedoms, place your trust in the power of an authoritarian government, and trade the promise of prosperity for the empty comforts of government control.
You're
yes.
very good at that. Maybe
yes, he
like
is.
A new post.
It's just
for breaking.
It's just unbelievable that they think that kind of BS isn't detectable as the BS that it is by the American public.
The fact, of course, that he said democratic socialism, which means if
Democrats, it has the word Democrat, therefore it must mean Democrats.
Well, I think this is a direct response to 𝐒𝐸𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐸𝐿's election in New York.
Yeah.
If that hadn't gone that way, so he's just like, well, we need to remind everybody that he's a socialist Democrat, which has got to be the same thing now, because that's what that. If you put the two words together, that means they're one. And yeah,
that and Bernie's recent speeches.
Well, and such grandiose broad sweeping, communism bad, and we're going to declare a week against communism. So I guess they're just going to declare a week against families. I mean, seems to forget that
what communist
everybody.
regimes are still out there other than the Chinese and the North Koreans, both of whom he's, down on his knees, unzipping pants to please. So what's the point here?
And he's completely forgetting that most Americans grew up in a communist system. That is the whole social family. It's the quintessential communism, from each according to their ability to each according to their needs. That is the American family.
Well, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, until you turn 18, you're drawing far more from the family than you're giving by a long shot.
And I don't think too many families today don't operate under that kind of a rubric.
That's one reason why the ideology seems to make so much sense when you're so young, is because that's actually the only one you've ever learned. You don't. Yeah. Most people don't practice capitalism in their families. Most people don't, barter goods with their parents. In most families, even in the U.S. So it's, yeah.
It's the very first successful, community organization that a child is subjected to. Obviously successful because they're there. I mean, it's very powerful.
Yeah, and it's somebody in the chat just said the point is propaganda, and that's exactly true. It's knowing that so many of the MAGA slant old GOP crowd still think in terms of the bipolar Cold War world. And that means communism bad. And as long as you keep beating that single note drum, they, foam at the mouth and bark at things that they're told to bark at. It's ridiculous.
Is this, well, no, I'm not going to ask. I think his administration is suffering problems. I think the Epstein files remain a problem. They're not as big as they used to be, but I think the discharge petition is, the discharge petition is going to go
just
through.
As big as they were, if not worse, because stuff is starting to leak out now about what some of the things are that are in those files that could get released if they come out. And it's more damning than a lot of people would have assumed was going to be there. I think most people expected to see, the register of who arrived at the island on which dates. Apparently, there are graphic photos featuring him.
Yes. So, and Pam Bondi couldn't, rather than deny it, all she had to do was, because Pam Bondi was asked point blank, are there photos of underage girls half naked around Trump and with Trump with a stain on his trousers? Does that photo exist? And if it does, have you seen it? Her response to that was, well, Congressman, it's really rich that you're attacking Donald Trump when boom, boom, and she starts this pre-planned attack on the guy, not answering the question. That is a question, if you can possibly answer no to, you answer no to. It doesn't matter what you've got on the other guy. It doesn't matter. It really, nothing else, man. It doesn't matter what you can
deflect.
Yeah.
Deflect.
So the fact that she could not say no. Yeah. She could not say no to that question. But what we've also got, so In Time has read very briefly, it's not something that I think we're going to do again if we don't have to, the testimony of one of the alleged victims of Donald Trump. She claims to have performed sex acts on him. She made these claims under oath as part of the deposition that is now all part of the Epstein files. So this is, yes, I say alleged quite deliberately, because he has not been convicted. And in fact, he hasn't even been indicted for any of this. So it's absolutely alleged. Do I find the woman credible? Absolutely. You do not do what she did unless one of two things are true. You're either criminally insane or you're telling the truth. She doesn't strike me as insane, and since there's at least 200 victims who are talking, no, they're telling the truth, period, end of discussion. You still have to say alleged, unfortunately. Well, no, probably fortunately, because I do believe in how our government works. But at any rate, we have since learned, now that's what I thought was going to come out, that and the pictures. So proof positive that he had had sexual relations with an underage child. It turns out that isn't the worst of it. The two sources from the FBI purportedly leaked, I forget if it was to the New York Times, I forget where, but it was to a major reliable news source, that Mar-a-Lago was in fact deliberately used to prepare and groom underage children for Epstein.
Center.
Yep. So I was like, wow, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it turns out. And
I was just sampling the wares. What's wrong with that?
Jesus. Yeah. Well, and one of the released Andrew from Prince Andrew, one of the recently released emails, when they started to get in trouble, Maxwell said maybe I should call Trump, in suggesting that he could bail them out of it, suggesting that he had done it before. So it looks like whatever's in those Epstein files accusing him of underage sex with a minor is going to be the most innocuous of the offenses. Genuine sex trafficking is, yeah.
The thing that gets me is this is a guy who has had plenty of proven sexual escapades, sexual assault, paying off porn queen to have sex with him, all of that stuff. And it's just water off a duck's back. His constituency, the MAGA crowd, don't even blink when stuff like that comes out about him. And the fact that they are so absolutely terrified of this stuff coming out tells you just how bad it must be.
Ask you both a question. Kash Patel, I think, is a complete and utter nut job. It's
a rude thing to say about nut jobs.
My apologies. I'll try to come up with something. Sorry, nut jobs. To those of you in the audience who self-identify as a nut job, my sincerest apologies. But writing a fairy tale book about King Donald Trump and Witch Hillary chasing him and trying to, I'm not making this up. That's a fairy tale book that he wrote and published and all. Yeah. So, and he stood in Congress and said, of course, I'm going to, do whatever I can with the Epstein files to see them released. And then he's obviously, once he learns what's in them, he's got a problem. Same with Pam Bondi. They all have a problem when their purported values of upholding the law or maybe just protecting children come into to clash with their position, and Donald Trump, who is in a position to hold a very big carrot and stick with these people, and he uses both quite well. What do you think is going through, let's assume for a second, and this is my assumption, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. My assumption is Pam Bondi probably thought he wasn't in the Epstein files when she first came on board, and if she had known, she wouldn't have come on board. She comes on board, she goes through the Epstein files, she has everyone redact everything, realizes he's all over it, and is now showing some signs of disenchantment with the administration, but she's in for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. What do you guys think? Do you think that that's plausible? How do you think Pam Bondi is handling this psychologically? You think she's going to stick around, or anybody else in the administration?
Still there, Xander?
I think that, yeah, I think that it's plausible. I don't know that she would have believed that he wasn't in them at all, but I can see them saying, well, sure, he was probably mentioned a lot, but that there isn't really anything hard against him. Like, okay, well, maybe he, because he was friends with Epstein. Although I'll have to say that, I mean, we're not dealing with the Clintons, so she has that much of a problem with it, or wants that much to have justice, and goes, oh crap, she should resign. I mean, so far, odd people haven't died around Trump, so she could probably resign safely and just move on, and she hasn't. So either her conviction about bringing these people to justice or any of that stuff isn't nearly as strong, and her self-interest is greater than that. Not self-preservation, just her self-interest. I don't know. I mean, it's plausible.
I think the situation is analogous to what we were talking about with Putin earlier. I think this is a case of you have to go all in, because the only other option is you lose everything.
Yeah, but I don't think that she would lose if she, well, it depends, I guess.
Yeah.
She can't work in the administration, and she can't work in any organization that opposes the administration. So she's done in politics and she's done in law.
Right. And that's my point is,
yeah,
as long as there's still a chance that the Donald can squeak through on this, then whatever illegal activity she or Hegseth or Patel or any other, administration stooge commits, it's pardonable. And I think that's very much in the forefront of everyone's mind, because most of these people, before they got these offices, were really kind of nobodies. They, in terms of politics, they were not there. And suddenly they're thrust into key top level positions in government. If they get out, whether it's voluntarily or because another regime comes in and fires them, it's game over for them. They're never coming back in. So, you're riding the tiger. You hold on as tight as you can and pray that, hopefully the tiger finds something else to eat before it realizes you're on its back and you're tasty.
Yeah, so they get in and realize that they have a tiger by the tail when they actually read it, and they're like, "Oh shit, we can't let go."
Yeah, that's where I think this is all going.
That could be. I mean, I would still say that if they are of moral character, that they would they would have.
I'm sorry, Robin Williams was not that funny in his humor as saying that these were moral compasses with these people.
Yeah, well, I guess if you get that high, you got to be a little morally gray, I guess.
So
how disenfranchising is that? That we're like, oh, you scoff at the very mention of morality. How far we've fallen.
Yeah.
Oh well, and the U.S. Attorney for Western Virginia. She has at a minimum almost certainly perjured herself in front of 2 grand juries. Fabricated evidence in front of at least one of those grand juries. She violated at least
holding a position that she isn't legally allowed to,
that she can't legally hold. The amount of trouble she's in right now, and it's only because nobody else is even willing to walk through the door to do what she's been asked to do. It's insane.
See, I think the real question here
she'll be disbarred. Yes, yes, sir.
I think the real question here is: are these people so self-absorbed that they don't realize the danger they're putting themselves in, or that they just are convinced that nothing can touch them because they're so highly placed now?
that's what I'm that's what I'm curious about is the sort of, and we're going to get on because I know people were asking earlier about the gay marriage. We are going to talk about that, but I'm interested in the psychology of it. When she decided she was going to do this, she didn't have to. A number of people resigned beforehand, and people who understood this a great deal more than she did. But we're all the heroes of our own story. So is she the like, I have been given an opportunity. I'm Superwoman. I am going to go in and I'm going to prosecute this thing that has to be prosecuted. Having never prosecuted a case in her life, she's going to go to a grand jury and prosecute 2 federal cases of 2 of the most famous people in the United States on behalf of, and it's just like, I think the gaslighting that must go on back there and the gaslighting that goes on with anywhere near or around Trump, and that's what all the you're such a great president, you're the best president. It's not just it's the gaslighting, and I think he does that to everybody too.
I think there's also an element of, remember, all of these people are authoritarian minded. Okay, and when you have that kind of mindset, you have trouble conceiving of anyone actually standing up to you, because I'm in a position of authority. Your entire natural place in the order is to bow down and comply with my demands. And the fact that people are not doing that, I think, leaves them kind of scratching their heads going, what happened to reality?
I so wish that I could push back against that authoritarian minded, and the problem is that I've seen it now as at much lower levels, like directly, that I'm like, there isn't even a case to be made to argue against that.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating. They all clean sweep. Can we just start again?
Jesus,
flush the toilet, make the turd go away.
Well, and I mean, he's got seven titles, so I have to repeat what he says anyway. And I'm going to make a point about this and see if he's available, because he might be a good person to talk to. But Dr. Reverend Christopher Mowdy, Esquire, Jr. Has said,
there a field marshal in there? ADMN had a field marshal.
Thank you, Field Marshal Christopher Mowdy Jr. Yeah, I got to write it down. It's not like I need it every show, but when I need it, I need it. Has said she knew being Pam Bondi. Yes, I forgot.
You forgot, sir. Although I'm not sure.
Oh yes, I did forget. I did forget, sir, because
being knighted in a backwater nowhere place that nobody can even find on a map really counts, but I mean,
you can't be knighted unless you're British, is my understanding. But at any rate,
sure, you could be knighted. There's other countries that have knights.
Looking at the history of that, anyway,
S doesn't recognize it, but
let's see. She knew coming in. She was prepped by being promised a pardon and told to lie, which, by the way, if Trump keels over, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be really worried.
Now I wonder who's going to be abusing the auto pen if Trump keels over. They're going to be like, oh, here's this folder that Trump was getting ready to sign, and here's all of the parts.
Weekend at Bernie's is going to be, they're just going to have Trump sitting there, the auto pen just going off. He is so pissed about that auto pen. He's got pictures of that auto pen in exchange for both, not only on the wall with the wall of presidents, but he did that and some other time referring to Biden. He is really, and I'm sitting there going like, how did he pardon all 2,000 of the January 6th insurrectionists on one day? He pardoned them on his first day or second day. He pardoned 2,000 of them without using the auto pen? I don't think so. Anyways, all right. So I'd like to get Dr. Reverend Christopher Mowdy Jr. Esquire on at some point to maybe discuss the psychology, because I think it would be a great show to discuss sort of the psychology of being trapped into, and I think it applies to narcissistic relationships. I've had that discussion with some members of the audience. It's been an interesting discussion, and with some psychiatrists. So I think that would be an interesting discussion to have because I think it all ties together. But we're going to go on to the last story. It's a reasonably short one, but it is worth knowing. The Supreme Court is hearing what the New York Times is calling a long-shot appeal to overturn the decision legalizing same-sex marriage. Now, most of us would think that it's a pretty straightforward and easy thing. They've overturned Roe v. Wade. They've overturned so much. A couple of differences with this one. First of all, they're now out of that pattern of overturning things. Second of all, so what has happened is that yesterday, behind closed doors, they heard the appeal of Kim Davis losing her case. She had tried to get a lower court to overturn her loss. She lost $360,000 in damages and attorney's fees and her job when she refused to sign wedding certificates as the Kentucky court clerk for same-sex marriages. So she refused to sign them. She was sued, lost, and had to pay that in damages. It got to a 2015 ruling, Oberfell versus Hodges, which basically codified same-sex marriage into law. That was in 2015. She is now appealing her ruling based on saying that that decision needs to be overturned. The reason the New York Times thinks that this is a long shot is because there were 4 dissents on that case. But one of them is no longer around. Justice Clarence Thomas is still there, and he has openly called for overturning Oberfell v. Hodges. We've talked about that. He's for overturning same-sex marriage. Not same-sex, interracial marriages, and he's fucking married to a white woman. Okay. At any rate, I'm just gonna keep trying to get through this. I mean, it speaks. If I was his wife, I'd be really, wait, you want to overturn interracial marriage? We're an interracial couple. Okay. Anyways, he's going. He just doesn't want to have to pay her in the divorce. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Samuel Alito were the 2 other dissenters that still remain on the court. Roberts has been silent since he wrote the dissenting opinion on the case, but Alito has said that he does not advocate that it should be overturned. So while he was not for it in the first place, he doesn't think it should be overturned. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who was not on the court at the time and is the new conservative, has said that there were many times that they should overturn things, but including abortion, but has suggested that same-sex marriage falls into a different category, and that she does not want to overturn the marriages of people who already have children.
The legal can of worms it would open if you did is huge.
Yes.
My God, the court system would be bound up in trying to deal with all the, hey, you need to pay me back what we paid you for this or whatever, for the next century.
What do you do with
yes.
communal property too?
Yeah, exactly. It's just,
I mean, their divorce or their marriage essentially becomes invalid, annulled. It's no longer any good. They're no longer married. You know, if you live in don't live in a communal property state. I just suddenly drew a blank on what the other one's called. Then it's like, well, what the hell do you do? How are you going to amicably separate actual property? Like, what about real estate? And it's like, yeah, that.
Well, what if you're raising children? If you're raising children, you've just, yes, sir.
Can we just remove the government from having anything to do with marriage at all? Please. The government shouldn't be deciding whose marriage is valid or invalid. The government should have no say whatsoever. I believe that they got the whole correlation causation issue mixed up when they decided, hey, we should advocate that people get married, because guess what? It seems that that married people are more stable and more successful and they contribute more to the community. We want more of that. So let's incentivize marriage without stopping to think that, hey, maybe it's the more stable, more productive, more, better members of society, or contributing more to society, not better members, that tend to get married. I want government out of the business of marriage entirely. It's none of their concern. It's none of their business.
Yeah.
You know, if two people want to join together and have a marriage, that is none of the government's business. You know, I don't like the fact that marriages give you some sort of tax advantage. That, again, and trying to incentivize people to get married. It's like you should pay the same tax regardless of whether you're married or not. It's one of the things that I actually very much disliked about the military and their pay. You know, oh, you're married, ergo you get to make more money, even though you're doing the exact same job that I'm doing with this exact same experience, and maybe not even doing it as well, yet you get paid more because you got married. That is ridiculous. I don't want the government involved in marriage at all.
By the way, speaking of that, quick reminder, we had a question at the end of yesterday's show. I thought it was an excellent question, and I promised I would look it up. I have the answer. Yes, ICE is getting paid during the shutdown. ICE is exempted from any shutdown and still gets salary regardless. So ICE is getting paid. They're getting paid for all of the raids. Meanwhile, FTA is not getting paid. Neither, yeah. Lance is, that's...
Nor is the military.
Nor is them, yeah, exactly. But ICE is, which gets right back into ICE really being essentially set up to be a private.
It's a private military for conservatives.
And for Trump personally, yep. So they fall under Department of Homeland Security funding. Having said that, I thought FTSB did as well, but FTSB is probably just a separate agency anyway, and doesn't. You know, but how on earth? Anyways, there is no amount of shutdown that will as long as the United States exists, they will continue to be funded. They are that secure. Just FYI. So, yeah, it's the new Wagner Group, or the Blackwater, as they were at the time. So, long story short, on the reason the New York Times thinks that this is a very long walk to get this done. Probably Thomas is going to vote for the appeal. Alito, who voted against the original decision, and has criticized it, did criticize the original Obergefell decision, has said, however, he is against overturning it. So, presumably, he's going to vote against overturning, and all it takes is one of them to not vote for it. So it looks like he's not going to vote for it. But on top of that, Justice Amy Coney Barrett also has suggested that she has no interest in overturning it. So that would be two needed conservatives that will likely vote to keep to not allow the challenge to the law. So the New York Times believes that since there are two conservatives who one who voted against it but was overridden, and the other who wasn't on the bench at that time, both of them are not going to vote to overturn. They need both to overturn, so it's presumed to be a long shot. It is conceivable we will actually have an answer Monday. Apparently, this has been fast-tracked, and even though they heard the arguments just yesterday, New York Times is saying we could hear as early as Monday as to what's going to happen with the same-sex couples, but they said that it's definitely a long shot overturning it at this point. I've heard that before, so I'm cautiously optimistic, but very cautious, because Democrats thought for a very long time nobody could touch Roe v. Wade, and then so that's where we stand. Any final thoughts from Richard Don Quixote? Have you seen video from Newsom's rally in Texas today? I have not, although I did hear that he, something along the lines of, they say don't mess with Texas, but he was planning on, I forget what it was. He's messing with Texas, which I'm not a fan of Newsom's, to be honest, but I am a fan of anyone who'll mess with Texas. So, any final thoughts, Commander McMillan?
Yeah, go ahead and do Sandring first. I need to find this quote that I want to read to you.
Mean to me, I have to be mean to Commander, because I can't be as mean to saying as Andrew.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Have him go first.
Yeah, yes, as Andrew.
Your hippo. My final thoughts are a quote from President Starkey. Stuff's getting better. Stuff's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
From who?
It's from Idiocracy.
Oh.
It's not from Idiocracy.
No? I thought that
Nope.
was President Starkey.
Nope. Oh, I'm not saying the president's name wasn't President Starkey, but there's another one, and that's a specific quote. Yes.
The only reason I know that is because it was put in the live chat, and as soon as it showed up in the live chat, I remembered you had mentioned it before, so I figured I would. All right, I will go next, so we can give Commander a little more time. I want to thank, let's see, and I actually had better check and make sure, see if we got any other super chats. Blonde Bombsheller, member for 13 months. Show some love, like, subscribe, comment, and share. And she knows what she's talking about. These channels take a lot of work, and it really does the donations and the super chats. And yeah, listen, if you like what we have to say, if you like just a clip of it, clip it, send it to somebody. That's one of the best ways. Word of mouth is about the best. And, you know, if you don't like it, presumably you wouldn't be here, unless you're a masochist, which I suppose, you know, what was that joke? Hurt me, said the masochist. No, said the sadist. That's probably inappropriate anyways. Definitely like, share, subscribe. What allows channels like this to operate is people doing that, is people who donate either time or financially or help out in some way. So we have a Discord, come join us. And a lot of people are helping us out on the Discord. We've had a great number of super chats and people on the Patreon, which I'm aware needs to be revamped. So we'll be revamping that next month. Thank you all for your support. It really does help. I love doing this show. I will do it as long as I can. And that's largely determined by how successful the show is. But I think it's important, and hopefully you do too. That's why you're here. So thank you all very much for your help. And with that, Commander, any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah. I couldn't find the exact quote I wanted to read, but ISW, the Institute for Study of Warfare, who does daily updates on what's going on in Ukraine, pointed out something in their most recent one that I thought was very interesting. It noted that the main Russian factory used for production of armored vehicles has reduced its work week to just 4 days a week and is basically terminating the employment of over 10% of their workers. And they're doing this simply because they can't pay them and they don't have the parts to produce stuff. So anybody who tells you that sanctions are not having an effect, that little bit of data is worth knowing.
I'm not a huge fan of Reagan. I do credit him with the destruction of the Soviet Union, and I think it's because he came up with a plan to, in part, outproduce them and to have them collapse under the weight of the fact that they could not keep up with an industrious capitalist society if it chose to make the battleground, and was successful in making the battleground production, which we succeeded in doing. So the Soviet Union collapsed. And I'm not saying he came up with the idea, but he had to green light it. And it was, it's the same way we give presidents whatever credit or failures under their watch. Apparently, that's sort of the attempt to do with Russia now. How well do you think that plan is going? Is that still a viable plan, or is it just taking too long?
It's not something that's going to end the war tomorrow. Even if they put the harshest damn restrictions in place they could, it's not enough on its own. But it is enough to whittle away at their ability to prosecute a war. That same factory used to produce a large amount of civilian vehicles, trucks, heavy transporters, that kind of stuff. They shut down that side of the production line some time ago. And they've now started shutting down the military side of the production line. That tells you how bad things are getting.
All right. Well, it's we're definitely
we're not going to see an end to it tomorrow, probably not even next year, but it's one of those, if you look real carefully down that long, long tunnel, you might see a pinprick of light starting to emerge at the far side.
Wow, it's been a while, and I haven't even been one of the ones that's had to really deal with it. All right, so what we're going to do is, let's see, I think we're going to send you guys to Mark Reed again. He's got a debate going on, Hassan versus Levy. Actually, I think he's going over the details of the debate. Was the war on Gaza justified? How did he find somebody on the pro side of that one? That seems like a pretty tough one to argue. So if you want to see him, because he's very good at disassembling those arguments, so we'll send you over there and say hi to him. If it's that or a gaming stream, and the gaming stream is Mercado, who I'm a big fan of, but I figured at least that one was had to do with the Gaza war, and don't worry, Mark will be mocking the Hassan. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to our next scheduled show is in time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. But my suspicion is we'll have breaking tomorrow, the next day, and maybe the next day after that. Breaking
will be a whole year older on our next show together.
Oh, happy soon-to-be birthday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I'm approaching your age. It sucks.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Don't let Titan's going to sit there and say, "Oh, you guys are all." Don't let Titan take the wind out of those sails. It sucks, and the wind's already out of the sails. I don't need Titan taking the wind out even more. It's like I got enough fucking problems. Titan, you guys are all young.
Got you all beat.
Yeah, that's just because Titan had to crank start his first chariot. All right. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and or breaking. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Make sure that you get your notifications, because we do breaking news. And if you want to see how we operate, how we put our news together, because we're a community-run organization, come join us on the Discord. See how it goes on. We've got a couple of new faces who are starting to learn the ropes, and that's been nice to watch. So thank you all. And his Andrew will be there too. There's nothing I can do about that. There's just nothing I can. He's got a backstage pass.
Not.
He's
I am not. I'm driving all the time. I can't respond.
Excuses.
But you can hit up Commander McMillan anytime you want to. He's very good about getting back to people and answering their questions. So, which he's done for me on more than he's my brain. Basically, what happens is right before every military show, I call him up. I say, "How does this work?" He says, "This is how it works." I say, "Okay, great, thanks." And then I'm just like, "Oh, all right, everybody, let me explain to you how this works." And I'm all professorial. It's like I haven't got a clue. So thank God for this guy up here. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Commander. Thank you to all the mods, everybody who super chatted, and we look forward to seeing you pretty soon, I'm sure. Have a good night and take care.
Take care.